Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Human-Centric Approach to Cybersecurity. I am Shilpa Sharma, and I will be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules for our attendees. The session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. An important note, admissions are currently open. For further details about our courses, please visit our website www.eccu.edu. Our speaker for today's session, Malcolm Xavier. He is a cybersecurity expert with an expansive global presence. His role revolves around fortifying the security and resilience of the organization's digital assets and operations, ensuring strict adherence to industry standards and regulations. With 20 plus years within the digital technology industry, he has navigated diverse domains and sectors including IT services, banking, insurance, telecom, and energy. His expertise spans a spectrum of vital areas encompassing IT strategy, cybersecurity, IT infrastructure management, data center migration and consolidation, data protection and compliance, risk management and governance, and IS program development and management. Demonstrating his commitment to excellence, he holds certification in key areas such as CISSP, TOGAF, Prince2, Azure, and Google Cloud. These credentials underscore his proficiency in implementing the robust security measures and aligning IT strategies with business objectives. Without any further delay, I would hand over the session to you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Malcolm Xavier. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. So the topic that we're talking about today is how do we develop a human-centric approach to cybersecurity? Just move on to the next one. So as Shilpa has already completed the introduction, I'll not spend much time in the introduction, right? But I have been working with multiple clients across the globe for over 20 years, and I pretty much focus on strengthening an organization's cybersecurity defense, focus on the governance aspect, and ensure that in an organization, the people and the company assets are protected. So let's look at some facts, right? I have good examples to share, but before we jump onto those examples, it is important that we understand some numbers, some statistics that are very well known. There have been many analysts who have put out time in research, and it comes out clear that there have been more than 2,000 cyber attacks striking the internet every day, and 95% of these cyber security issues can be tracked to human error. And this is a reference that I've taken from the World Economic Forum. But even if you spend some time, even if you spend some time analyzing other reports, you will see similar numbers that most of the attacks are pointing towards or tracing towards human errors. I have some good examples to share, but imagine, you buy a house, right? When you buy a house, you want to make sure that the walls are very strong, the boundaries are secure, you have windows that have a privacy shield, you have strong doors, and even if after you have all of this, you still go and buy insurance just to make sure that your family is protected, correct? So I'll talk about what helps us to take these decisions. Why do we want to secure ourselves and our surroundings? So I have a story to share. Even though you have these a house that is strongly built, right? But there could be vulnerabilities. So one of the stories is that I had invited a relative to my house. He was just visiting for a few days, and he had this weird habit of smoking. Not that I get annoyed, with smokers, but I don't promote it either. So what he would do is he would go out to the back garden, right, smoke a cigarette, come back, and that goes on and on and on. But the problem is, on one night he forgot to lock the door on the patio, so which basically resulted in a theft in the house. Even though there was heavy investment to make sure that the doors had the necessary locks, there were CCTV cameras, the house had all the protection it needed, but due to a human error, we basically had a robbery. And you know that the insurance would not pay for such robbery because it was our own mistake to make sure that, it was our own mistake that we kept the door open. So there is enough research available where it's clearly proven that humans are the weakest link in the cybersecurity kill chain. And we should, as cybersecurity professionals, we should not play the blame game, or rather we should take steps to make sure that the inevitable doesn't happen. We all know that systems are adequately protected. Just like the house analogy and my personal experience, we spend a lot of money in buying next generation firewalls, antivirus softwares, a SIEM platform. We invest in people to monitor the data that comes out from monitoring tool. But it is important that we also focus on the people who are exposed to accessing web, accessing their emails, and that's where the focus should be. So in today's session, we will look at the science and the art behind everything we do, right? So everything that we do in today's world, there is a science behind it. Our behavior, our choices, our wins, our losses, there is always a science behind it, right? Now look at the perimeter, right? In the medieval times, rulers would build a wall that was not only strong, but it would showcase to the enemies their strength, right? So they would construct walls that are strong, made of materials that cannot be broken, even with armor or even with ammunition, right? And this was also to demark their property, right? So if we use this context in the organization world, organizations also secure the network or protect their users and customers' data in a similar manner. This practice still goes on and on, where an organization will spin up a perimeter firewall, then we'll have demilitarized zone, segregated network, we'll have all the systems, to make sure that they protect their own employees, their users, and the customers' data. But in the modern world, what has actually changed is the data moving beyond the perimeter to the cloud. As we see digitization happening, we see adoption of cloud, we will have this risk of exposure wherein the cloud service providers are not fully responsible for the security. It is managed on a shared level, right? Even outsourcing to third parties, your critical systems and services being exposed to third parties also brings in a risk. This has basically pushed us to rethink our security, compliance, and third-party supply chain risk management, especially. And there is more emphasis to protect personal data these days. So humans have many needs, right? Apart from our basic needs of being happy, freedom, having the peace and joy, we want balance, we want hybrid working, we also want shared Netflix accounts, which isn't what they would want, but this is what humans would want. In the corporate world, we have seen changes wherein an organization has asked their remote working staff to just come and accept the hybrid working. So as human, we have to adapt. Many are still searching for flexibility in their workplace, but I am pretty sure that organizations would want the workforce to accept the culture, improve the collaboration, and that's why they would want their employees to be back. So what I want to emphasize is the heuristic, right? This is how we actually, if you think about the daily decisions that we make, right? If you have to drive your car, go to the office, you don't have to think much about it. It just happens automatically. If you have to pick up a pen, write something on the book, eat your meals, walk down the stairs, do your daily tasks, you do not have to think about it. But there would be certain complex tasks where you have to stop and rethink, right? So what if you're driving a vehicle and also at the same time speaking to someone on the phone, and at the same time you're writing? So as humans, we cannot multitask easily, right? Computers and machines can, but as humans, we will have limitations. So what I'm trying to emphasize over here is that there are some decision-making capabilities which has to take time. We have to slow down, we have to be conscious, and we have to put in the efforts to make sure that there are certain items where a proper thought process has been put in. For example, if you have to think about your health, your education, those are certain aspects which do need time. And this is basically how a human brain operates, right? So I want to take an example of how we can remind our own people, right? Or how governments have done some experiments which has worked for them. So look at the image, right? You can clearly see that there is a symbol or a sign to slow down. Now, what this means is that whoever is driving on that path needs to slow down because this is a safety signal and they need to follow the signal to make sure that they protect themselves, right? This is nothing but a nudge or a reminder from the public authorities to the drivers on the road to follow the rules. I think we can do something similar in cybersecurity, right? We can help users to take the right choice or make the right choice by reminding them that a particular link that they have access could be malicious. And this is what we do in a cybersecurity world, right? We deploy systems which scan the URLs and remind the users that this may not be the right choice. So we are trying to take steps to make it easy for them, right? I will also take an example of an implementation, or the government authority in Australia, the council, basically wanted to promote healthy well-being amongst the commuters. So what they did is they wanted commuters to use this staircase, right? And they built the staircase. They wanted daily commuters to use it, but unfortunately they did not see an adoption. So they did a small experiment by painting an art on the staircase, and over a period of time they actually started seeing results. So for humans, if you reward the good behavior, you can potentially change the way they behave, right? So the message from this story is that to change a behavior, you have to understand what do humans get influenced under. For example, if you are rewarding that behavior and it's working out, you should look. So talking about cybersecurity education or user awareness trainings that many organizations do, some organizations have experimenting in rewarding the good behavior, in giving points, or maybe giving them Amazon vouchers to users who have completed the training or who have actually scored good marks on their user awareness training. You always want to reward the good behavior. So there are some top trends in cybersecurity wherein, and this data is coming from Gartner analysts who have actually mentioned that by the year 2025, 40% of the cybersecurity programs will deploy social behavioral principles, just like the nudge technique. If you just remember, the road sign to slow down, that's nothing but a nudge technique. And also the sign that we use to remind the user that this could be a malicious site, don't go ahead. So that's the nudge technique that many organizations will adopt by the year 2025. And by 2027, 50% of large organizations, CISOs, will have adopted human-centric design practices to minimize cybersecurity-induced friction and maximize control adoption, which means is that there is focus from the security leaders among large organizations to make sure that they look at the human-centric aspect, just to make sure that they promote or reward the good behavior and help humans fight the first battle, because humans are the first line of defense. And if we condition or if we train them, they would not be clicking on malicious link, they will not be downloading malicious payloads, which will indirectly impact our organizational network, right? So it's very important to make sure that we train our own people. But it's not just about end users. We also look at our own cybersecurity professionals who are actually supporting our end users, right? So they are monitoring alerts, maybe in the SOC, or they are part of the threat hunting team where they're trying to find issues within the network or indicators of compromise, or it could be the cybersecurity management itself, right? So what I have found out and what we have heard from experiences that the SOC team or the level 1 team, which is monitoring all the alerts, does encounter a lot of alerts. And in most of the cases, you do not want those many alerts. You only want to be alerted when there's an actual issue or when there is a crisis. So you have to understand that aspect. Then the second point is the skill gap. There is a massive gap amongst cybersecurity, in the industry. We do not have enough resources or skills to actually take up positions within cybersecurity. And this is again coming from analysts and researchers. Even the UK government conducted or released a skill report earlier this year, which actually talked about the shortages. It is improving year on year, but there is still a shortage of skilled resources. And even if you have skilled resources, because the demand for skilled resources is high, retention becomes an issue for organizations. Organizations would want to make sure that they retain critical staff and staff who have the knowledge to make sure that they work with the organization and continue the agenda of making the cybersecurity more resilient and protect the organization. So the retention issue is a reality. There is also a statistics from Gartner itself. They looked at the behavior of end users and they found out that 69% of employees intentionally try to bypass cybersecurity guidance. So if you say don't do it, they will try to find out an easier way to get through, right? And they've also mentioned that employees sometimes also frequently open emails, click on attachment from unknown sources on a work device. And this is where we as cybersecurity professionals conduct those phishing simulations to study what is the behavior. So in my personal experience, we try to measure, we conduct phishing campaigns and we try to measure if there is a risky behavior and if users are still clicking on those phishing links, right? And that helps us to make sure that we promote security awareness training and change their behavior. Also, statistics prove that employees do you use work devices for personal work? So they would want to access their personal files on work devices, which is not advisable. So it's completely a fail. And then thereafter, they also save passwords in either the browser or notepads or wherever possible, or even on sticky notes that can be easily stolen. So these are nothing but risky behaviors that we as cybersecurity professionals plan to change. That's why there is enough emphasis on cybersecurity user awareness training. But just to give you a different angle, you may be the cybersecurity expert in the house, but there is always a possibility that maybe the business doesn't take you seriously, or the user you're interacting with or training, that user doesn't take you seriously, right? So, and that could only be because maybe they do not have an awareness of what cybersecurity is, what a threat is. Sometimes the users, and this is again from my personal experience, a user comes up to the IT floor, talks to one of the cybersecurity professionals and says, hey, can you give me a charger for my laptop? So they feel that cybersecurity is nothing but just another extension for IT, right? So we as cybersecurity professionals have to take in the effort to make sure that we train our own people and we invest in making sure that we change the behavior for the good. Now, the behaviors cannot be changed easily, right? If you have to make sure that you invest in humans to become the first line of defense, it will take time, right? So firstly, you have to understand what is the baseline. Just the previous slides, we understood that users are clicking on phishing links, users are accessing personal emails. So you have to understand what's happening in your environment. If you're working as a cybersecurity professional, you have to do that baseline study. And there are many ways you can do this baseline study. You can do this through audits, or you can do through a survey, or you can sit down with multiple departments and do interviews and try to understand what is the baseline behavior. Okay. And thereafter, you have to conduct those regular trainings. And cybersecurity trainings cannot be a one-time delivered exercise. It has to be repetitive, and you have to make sure that you measure the success. If 50% of the employees are completing the training, you always have to strive to achieve 60, 70, 80, 90, and then thereafter 100%. So you have to make sure that cybersecurity awareness is in the key performance indicator, and you educate your employees on cybersecurity basics. And also, departments which perform critical functions such as finance, your procurement team, your marketing, sales, anyone who's dealing with external facing customers or vendors, you have to make sure that you train them and you explain them the risk. And this can all be done with efficient cyber security awareness program, right? Now, while we looked at the statistics, while we looked at the human behavior side of things, why as humans we behave in a particular manner, I would want to take you to a different perspective, right? As humans, as I mentioned earlier, not every human is the same, right? We have a different way of thinking, and that's what makes us unique. So I want to show you that there are, and there has been research again done on this, right? If you look at an organization, if you look at a school or any educational institute, right, you'll always find people, that the brain functions differently. Everyone has different ways of learning. Someone in your team might be a good visual learner who can easily learn with looking at video files, but there will be a learner who's good with reading books and listening to podcasts, and they can just write their notes and learn it. So that's what makes us different. And there has been enough emphasis and enough research on mentioning that, yeah, please acknowledge that everyone is different, right? But for those who operate in similar manner, they can just complete their day-to-day tasks without, in the same manner, are classified as neurotypical, right? So just be aware of the fact. So when you conduct your cybersecurity training or when you actually hire people, you cater for diversity, and that's what we look at, right? Neurodiversity is the need of the hour, and you support neurodiversity, and that brings in advantages. Me as an IT security manager working for one of the largest organizations, I would want people within my team who are neurodiverse, as in they can bring in different aspects or different capabilities on the table, and we as leaders, work with them and make sure that we will operate as a team, because sometimes you need creative people to think about designs, think about something new, but then you need team members who can do the repetitive task without complaining that they are bored. So hence, diversity always helps, right? So whenever you're designing your training program, make sure that the training programs are creative, and if you do not have or if you're limited on resources, there is enough information available on the internet to find out how you can bring in creativity, or you can cater a neurodiverse audience, right? So again, I want to stress upon the point, some of the personality traits of a neurodiverse personality, right? So neurodiverse people are people who can actually socialize efficiently. They communicate well, they have strong bonds, right? They navigate with social challenges efficiently. They can make friends, establish relations with absolutely ease, right? They can socialize. But then you also have people who have their own sensitivity, right? So you have to be aware that there are certain types of people who may not be neurotypical, but would be sensitive to the social environment. Maybe they don't like enough light on the floor, or maybe when someone is shouting next to them, or when it's very a noisy environment, maybe they cannot really focus. So you have to understand and give them the environment they need so that they can function. So as leaders, we always focus on what do people need in the environment, how we can support them, right? So over a period of time, I have seen changes in the way we look at workforce and in the way we actually look at our end users, right? So I will talk about the traditional versus the human-centric cybersecurity. So when we look at the traditional approach, the focus was always on technology and infrastructure. We always wanted to get the best of tools, best of systems, to make sure that we add that defense layer and we understand what's happening on the network. But recently, the shift has been on the people aspect as well. We want to understand what is the behavior of the actual user. And even from the system perspective, if you look at the antivirus has now evolved from an antivirus to a next-gen antivirus to a EDR and now an XDR. And it is not just detecting malicious softwares, but is also looking at the behavioral aspect of a particular user. And that's what has actually changed. So you need to just see the massive difference between the traditional approach as well as the modern approach. Okay, so the key principles of cyber or human-centric cybersecurity remains training and awareness, right? If you really have to bring in the culture, you have to understand the baseline, promote training and awareness, reward the good behavior, and that's how you'll change the culture. But again, try to understand that there are neurodiverse people and there are neurotypical people. So you have to cater accordingly. And you have, whatever you implement, you have to make sure that you have to make it easy. And that's where I use the nudge theory, wherein you're reminding a user that that could be a malicious site by just one single nudge, right? And there has been enough emphasis on behavioral analytics, where we are trying to understand why is the user clicking on that link and what is the motivation behind the user. And that tells us how can we prevent such behaviors, right? Again, the benefits of human-centric cybersecurity approaches, you will always get enhanced security, and that's what the focus these days is, to make sure that we protect the organizations, our people, from cybersecurity attacks. So there will always be a reduced risk of human error or a cybersecurity attack due to human error can be easily prevented with enhanced security. Then we will increase the level of compliance, because there are many regulations out there who would want us to comply to the regulations and protect the company, protect the people. So we'll comply with human regulations. And at the end, if you create systems that are easier to use, understand, if you help the user take every decision in their daily work life, if you help them from us, or if you prevent a cybersecurity attack from them, they will thank you. I have, in my personal experience, I have had users actually reporting genuine phishing attacks and have thanked us because we could only train them in a different manner. So I've seen that. But then you will always have users who would not fall, for the phishing test because they don't read emails. That's not the behavior we want to promote, right? We want our users or employees to read emails, analyze them, and then take the decision. So again, promote the right behavior and make sure that you create that cybersecurity culture, right? So with this, we are coming to an end to this presentation, and if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer your questions. Shilpa?
Yes.
Hi, Shilpa. I think we've covered up pretty much, the topics that we discussed.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you so much for delivering such an informative session, and our attendees share the same sentiments. If you're interested to learn more about our program, do let us know in the poll that's going to be conducted now. If you would like to learn more, please select yes, and we will schedule a call to provide you with more information. Also, an important note, admissions are presently open. For comprehensive details regarding our courses, kindly visit our official website, www.eccu.edu. So shall we start with the Q&A, Malcolm?
Sure. Happy to answer, Shilpa, when I can.
Yes. So our first question to you is, the issue of finding qualified people in such a rapidly evolving sector, is it a threat or an opportunity? Is it reasonable to continue in a struggling market, or how reasonable is the likelihood of a return on investment?
Okay, so there are three questions in that one question, right? Thank you. That's a very good one. So issue of finding qualified people in cybersecurity, right? So let's try to understand that particular question. So if I talk about my 20 years of experience in the industry, cybersecurity as a specialization did not exist back then. So in IT security, the IT back office team or the IT level 2 team would support your servers, you support your antivirus, and then your network admin will take care of the firewall, your IDS, your IPS, right? Over a period of time, because of the increase in cyber attacks, because of the increase in the number of people using the internet, it has created a need of a specialized space for cybersecurity, right? That's why you also see universities conducting degree programs on cybersecurity. So I think over a period of time, you'll have many cybersecurity professionals, right? And it's the return of investment, right? So if you're a student who's investing in your education, there are enough job opportunities out there. And for that same reason as well, you will see companies investing in developing skills, because organizations believe in developing skill sets of their own employees, so that in return, the employees will work and protect the organization. So there is a reasonable outcome to the entire exercise. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you for answering that question. Next question to you is, how does a human-centric approach differ from traditional security awareness programs?
Yeah. So how does it differ from the traditional cybersecurity user awareness program is that, you have to understand the way your users or your employees behave, correct? If you have one size doesn't fit all, and that's why I said everyone is different. The way I choose, maybe I like coffee, but you like tea, right? So we have different preferences, and the way we learn is also different. So we have to understand what are the needs of the users, how we can train the users, right? Different people within an organization can be trained in a different manner. Some people can learn easily in the classroom training. Some people can just, look at visuals and learn. And some people just need to be given that book, and they will be happily, reading the book, and they'll change the behavior. So traditional cybersecurity was all about tools, making sure that we have the defenses in place, and because technology was evolving, so they were trying to put an emphasis on building the tools. But now human-centric approach is all about making sure that the first line of defense, humans, are aware about the threats. And I gave a very good analogy of the house, right? No matter how strong you build the walls or the doors, but it's always a human. You have to make sure that you lock the door. So it's always the human's responsibility not to download or malicious softwares or click on phishing links. That's why the change of human-centric approach. And also, everyone is different. We have to support neurodivergent people because they will eventually help you in your cybersecurity journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, what is the way to go in bug bounty hunting? Google and ChatGPT, even YT said, the way it easy to listen but not applicable in real. So can you tell me the way or methodology of bug bounty hunting to get bounties?
Okay, so that's more of a very specific question in the red teaming space, right? In cybersecurity, we talk about blue teaming, which is incident response, trying to fight, trying to make sure that the defenses are there. We deploy EDR, XDR, same platform to understand what's happening there. But on the other side, you also have the red teamers who actually would want to conduct penetration testing exercises and find out how vulnerable a particular software could be. And that's where companies like Google, Microsoft, or any software company, when they develop a software, they invite hackers or the community to kind of participate in the bug bounty program, and you try to exploit any sort of vulnerabilities that or bugs it might have. And you'll find enough information on the internet about it. I do not want to promote a particular brand here, but I would just say just Google or just find something on the search engine, and you will definitely find a bug bounty program. There will be guides available on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, in what ways can AI technologies mitigate human errors in cybersecurity, and what limitations do these technologies face?
In what ways can AI mitigate human errors, right? And that's a hot topic these days. How can AI help cybersecurity, right? So AI is AI is built on models, large language models. So it's training data, correct? While humans can be slow at learning, AI models are already available. So they can easily identify malicious content as compared to healthy content, right? So whenever, as So in our day-to-day life, so when we are browsing websites, when we are accessing emails, right, we need the nudge. So imagine if you get an email from your boss and you just click on that link, right? That could be a phishing link. Or if you're browsing a website, you think it's a genuine website and you're trying to buy something from the website, you have your credit card information put in the website. But what if a reminder comes up and says, hey, this could be a malicious site, do not proceed with it. It's just a nudge or a reminder saying that don't do it. And that's how AI is going to help improve the human errors, or help improve the human behaviors rather. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question. Our next question to you is, why has this topic become very relevant and what is its scope and future direction?
Yeah. This topic has become more relevant, the human-centric approach to cybersecurity, because I think in some cultures, the Asian culture versus the Western culture or any other culture, sometimes we don't look at the people aspect, right? We just focus on technology. But, so the recent research, and it always comes with, whenever there is a cybersecurity attack that happens, we try to do, as part of the incident response plans or runbooks, we focus on lessons learned, right? So based on the lessons learned amongst enough cybersecurity attacks, the data is clear to prove that it is the humans which are the weakest in the cybersecurity chain. But rather than blaming them, we have to take efforts to improve the behavior. That's why rather than just releasing the same sort of videos every now and then, we also look at innovative ways to change the behavior, pushing the nudge theory, or using a technology which actually nudges the user, right? So that's how the shift from traditional focus on implementing technology, it's just gone into understanding what the users. There was a experiment done by an aviation company in the UK, wherein they actually wanted to reduce the number of incidents caused by phishing attacks. So they had partnered with the university and hired scientists. So they, over a period of time, they understood that there are ways when humans are busy, right, super busy in their work, they can make mistakes. So if you have to read 10 emails, maybe you will be able to give enough time to read those 10 emails. But if you have to read 100 emails, there is a possibility that either you will miss reading one of the emails properly, or in just a hurry, you might just click on that link. So they try to understand the workload. They try to understand why users were clicking on the phishing link, right? And that's where the focus now moves from a traditional approach to a modern approach. And this topic has become more relevant. In the cybersecurity, I participate in many conferences, and I see many cybersecurity leaders talking about bringing in or developing the human-centric approach to cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malcolm, for answering that question. Our next question to you is, how to make use of AI to improve security and spread awareness regarding threats in cyberspace?
So I think the use of AI basically is helping us understand what the user is doing, right? So we traditionally, I mentioned this earlier, that we conduct phishing simulation attacks, right? Now, it's nothing but we create a template, we just send it to 1,000 users within the organization, and the users think it's a genuine email, and without checking the sender, they're clicking on the phishing link, right? And that message comes back to our team, and then our team analyzes who are the frequent users, and then they are basically sent those training programs that are relevant to phishing, right? Now, how AI is helping is AI can automatically understand the behavioral aspect of a particular user. Maybe the user is constantly just going to malicious site or trying to hover around phishing links. AI softwares understand and learn from the behavior, and automatically they will send the risky user a training program that they have to complete, and AI will automatically remind them or rather score them. So these days you have softwares that actually rate a particular risky user. So you have your top 10 risky users, and then you can focus easily. That's how AI is making user awareness training efficient these days.
Thank you for answering that question. Our next question to you is, how can organizations effectively leverage human behavior to strengthen their cybersecurity posture, considering factors like trust, awareness, diversity, and user needs?
Okay, so again, I will not talk about the technology part about AI because we covered that in the previous questions, right? But there is an importance on enough emphasis about understanding human behaviors, right? Because you want to make sure you also want to establish, as an organization, you are open to, you're inclusive, and that you accept diversity, right? So I mentioned earlier as well that not everyone thinks in the same manner, and someone could be very happy doing the same task every day and without complaining that the person is bored, so that they bring in different aspects. But you will have that one person who will just bring in the creative experiences in helping you design solutions that never existed. So that's why we have to be open to neurodiverse people. And when you're open to ideas, when you promote or when you empower your own people, that's how you bring in the trust, right? In terms of user awareness, there are systems which are helping. There are enough companies who are focusing on that area. And to change the human behavior is something that can easily be achieved if you understand what the technology, what data the technology generating. But if you move away from the technology, you can use your own. I think as human, we are blessed to understand how a particular person can contribute towards your goals, your objectives. So you have to be very intelligent, or rather focused in understanding what a human can bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question. We'll take last two questions for the day. So our next question to you is, what are the challenges faced by companies in protecting against cyber threats, solution and strategies for managing network and system security, recent trends in the field of information security?
So challenges in network security and the recent trends, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the challenges and trends, this data comes in from analysts like Gartner, right? Now, with the adoption of AI, with the adoption of Gen AI, and there is more emphasis in the Western countries to protect personal data and focus on making sure that we only collect the data we need about individuals. So there is an importance from regulators that we protect the data which belongs to a European, UK national, and same as in different countries, they will have their own regulations to protect data. So with the development of AI, with the adoption of AI, right, AI brings in several opportunities, but it also brings in its own unique challenges, right? So the challenges are that exposure to data that could not be accurate. So if your users, if your employees are taking in inputs from generative AI, and if they have no mechanism to validate it and using it into corporate systems, and thereafter you could easily land up into a legal issue down the line, or a copyright issue down the line, or you could potentially make a decision mistake because someone has represented the data in a wrong manner. So Gen AI brings in those aspects as well. But again, it is trying to bring in efficiency in the way we work. It can summarize your emails, it can give you pointers, but we should use it efficiently. From a cybersecurity perspective, I think now that we have the challenge, right? So the trends pretty much focus on adoption of AI, adoption of systems which actually incorporate generative AI. And as cybersecurity professionals, we just have to make sure that we understand the challenges or risk it will bring in. And in terms of network solutions, right? Network solutions, primarily the core concepts of network has always been the same. I don't think it will change in future, but there has been like a slight change wherein earlier everything was within a perimeter, within an organization's perimeter firewall or in DMZ. Now the data is going to cloud, and that's what the change is. So you just have to understand the data is always scattered. With the adoption of remote working as well, you have your employees or your contractors logging in from the internet. So you're basically taking your company data and putting it over the internet, even if it's hosted in a private tenant or private cloud or a public cloud, it is still over the internet. So it's beyond your boundaries. That brings in several risks, and that's where you have to start adopting technologies which are not technologies, I would say. You have to adopt the zero trust framework, and you have to focus more on micro segmentation so that you can definitely reduce the risk. Thank you, Shilpa.
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. Our last question to you is, what if wrongly clicked on malicious link, like if someone wrongly clicked on malicious link, and then what is the next immediate step to protect the data?
So, I mean, it's part of the incident response plan. I mean, you would expect your antivirus system, your advanced antivirus systems, or EDR, XDR to action based on the signature, right? So there is I would encourage you to study the Pyramid of Spain, wherein it clearly says that, you know, anything that is a malicious IP, it has a malicious domain name or a malicious signature that can easily be detected, right? So your XDR, your EDR, your antivirus can take care of that. What if they somehow, you know, just got into a user's machine? Then you have to invoke your incident response plan, wherein once the detection is done, then you basically categorize what is the level of the impact, right? You have to understand, is it one user or multiple users? If it's one user, then it's easy, right? You just have to contain the incident by isolating the device, maybe resetting the user's password, and then continuing to study how did it happen, why did it happen, how can it be prevented. So it completely depends on the nature of the incident and the nature of the impact as well.
Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Malcolm, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared with our global audience. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you. Now, before we conclude the webinar, Malcolm, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity, especially to EC Council. The message is pretty much that, you know, there is enough material available for studying, and as cybersecurity aspirants, you know, if you do get an opportunity, try to get involved into community events, try to learn from available resource. EC Council has good resources as well. Spend the time, understand, and also be aware of what's happening in the surrounding. Read what's happening in countries like UK, United States, in the global conflict era. You know, the countries are participating in making sure that they are cyber resilient. There's heavy investment, so there will be a lot of opportunity in cybersecurity. I would just you know, make sure that I'm skilled enough as a cybersecurity aspirant. I will invest my time in upgrading my skill sets, and that's my message generally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Malcolm, for the message to our audience.